Good evening, everybody. We're shortly after our scheduled start time of 7:30, so we'll get started here. This is the regular meeting of Lakewood City Council. Today is Monday, July 16th. Thank you all so very much for being here. Now, if you'll all rise, we have Cub Scout Pack 58, who will, I'm sorry, what's the correct? There's 4 different packs here. Oh, I'm sorry. We've got 4 different packs here tonight. So we've got a proud Boy Scout contingent, or Cub Scout contingent, that will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thanks.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Present.
Bullock. George. Here. Litton.
Here.
O'Leary.
Here.
O'Malley. Rader.
Here.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the special meeting of council held April 30th, 2018.
Move to dispose without the necessity of a reading. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to dispose the minutes without reading? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held July 2nd, 2018.
Move to dispose without reading. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to dispose of those minutes without reading? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 1, committee.
I'm sorry, actually, before we, if we can, before we call the first item, if there's no objection from council, we're joined this evening by a number of folks who are here with respect to the parade and the awards from the parade. So, Mayor, if you're agreeable as well, we can move items 10 and 11 up to the top of our agenda this evening so we can recognize the folks who are here with us and get them onto the rest of their evenings. Thanks.
Thank you, President O'Leary, members of council, members of the audience. I'm very pleased tonight to acknowledge Grand Marshal Gordon Geiger, who is with us tonight. Gordon, if you'd stand, his brother Chaz, long-standing contributors to so many aspects of what makes Lakewood great. I can't think of a silent auction in this town that doesn't have a donation from Geigers. I can't think of a cause that isn't supported monetarily or otherwise, and of course, the Geigers have offered their personal leadership to so many important aspects of what allows us to call success here at Lakewood, from school boards to school levies to all types of citizen-led initiatives. So, Gordon, on behalf of a grateful city, I thank you. I thank Chaz, who was unable to be here tonight, for your past leadership, and we're pleased to acknowledge you to have successfully led us off what was a very hot parade. Right? And those who now are in the parade, and you know that there are many spots on Lake that could use a little more shade. But Gordon, thanks very much. Would you care to make any remarks?
Only that if you're ever asked to do it, accept. It's a lot of fun. This part is kind of over the top. I appreciate the effort. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you for the honor.
Thank you.
We are pleased to honor Best Color Guard, and we have many color guards that volunteer their services to lead our parade. And it's a very competitive award because each offers a distinctive flair to the experience. But this year, the Vietnam Veterans of America chapter, 249 Young Marines Color Guard, were the award recipients. We have an award recipient representative. Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. You want to tell us a little bit about your organization?
Well, we're an organization made up of, I will call them era vets of the Vietnam era. I did not go to Vietnam, thank God, but I went to the Dominican Republic, a small brush war that lasted 17 months. We lost 27 men, 2 when I was down there. but we're an organization to support other veterans, both past and future.
So you have the Young Marines.
And the Young Marines, I invited last year, and we won the award last year. And I see none of them could show up. I'm gonna have to go yell at that.
It's a beautiful summer night, I think we might understand.
Could be, yeah, and they just got back from a weekend. They have a game between several groups down in central Ohio, so.
Well, thank you for continuing to honor our parade with
Yes.
your leadership.
Thank you.
Well done. And this year's award for Best Bicycle was a little different than the past. Many of you might remember the Emerson Unicycle Club. Some of you may have been in the Unicycle Club at Emerson, and they have a long-standing tradition of garnering successful votes. But this year, Cub Scout Pack 68, 72, and 115 garnished this particular award. So come forward and receive your plaque and our gratitude for your creativity. Thanks very much for your leadership. And you have 4 packs, so how,
We do.
how,
We're gonna-
how did you all get
We're gonna
together?
take pictures. No, we're really coming together in Lakewood now. Last year we started collaborating because scouting is so important. We now are boys and girls in Cub Scouts as of right now. So we encourage everyone to join scouting. It's a wonderful thing. We are expanding in so much here in Lakewood. It's a great thing. So
It takes great leadership, and you guys are lucky to have the opportunity. So I'll present this to you. If you want to pass it around, you can see each other. Well done, and thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very much,
leadership. The award for the most original entry goes to the Lake Trail Nation Adventure Guides. So I think you were carrying a canoe, if I'm not mistaken, among other things. So come forward. So you want to tell us a little bit about Adventure Guides and the particular aspect of it?
Sure. As the agenda shows, we're the Lake Trail Nation Adventure Guides national program administered through the YMCA. We're, of course, associated with Lakewood Y. And group's been around for longer than I've been around. We try to have monthly events, at least monthly, for whole families to get together. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, and significant family members welcome to join together. Where the parents or the adults are the guides, and we lead the kids on adventures.
Do you have a sense of how many young people might be involved in Lakewood?
I think our current roster is probably upwards of 80 people.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for your creativity. Yeah, well done.
Thanks, Council.
And the last award, this is a perennial award, seems to be the most spirited by virtue of their unique culture, leadership, and probably age and enthusiasm is H2O. So H2O, would you please step forward and so these folks are counselors in the H2O camp. Amy Hutchinson is an employee of the Lakewood City government and our Department of Youth who oversees H2O. So Amy, want to tell us a little bit about H2O and maybe what contributes to the enthusiasm award of the year?
Certainly. This guy. Certainly. And our staff. So we have a program with the city of Lakewood, and we engage middle school and high school youth in volunteer service work. During the school year, we're active with our high school base, reach over 300 kids from the high schools, residential base. We have an after school middle school program, but certainly our most spirited contingent is our summer service campers. We have 193 campers per year in 4 sessions. Yeah, it's based on a variety of service work. We have speech hikers and afternoon activities and large original projects. And we work with agencies throughout the greater Cleveland area as far flung as the Food Bank, Ronald McDonald House, and the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And we love winning this award because certainly we cheer and chant and march the loudest, but I think it kind of represents the irrepressible spirit that our middle school campus bring to their community work as well. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Now, you might want to know how these awards are chosen. And the bell end of Lake Avenue, ballots are passed out. Folks are asked to be judges. It's a different group every year. Some folks perhaps seek that out and make sure they're there to get a ballot. Others might be surprised if they're voting, and so they're given a ballot, and so they're asked to pay attention and make a judgment. The ballots are counted, and we have winners. So basically are chosen by the observers of the parade. It's not a government process.
I didn't think that it was parade officials that made the call.
No? No, I think the assistants do a much better job. So congratulations, and thank you to all the winners for helping to make for a great parade. And hopefully it will work.
I hope so. Thank you.
And then I should say, the Goodwin family, who is a perennial winner as well, makes it a point at their annual family reunion to fill the float. And they have one member of their family who takes the responsibility. He's actually, I learned today, he's a kindergarten teacher. And basically calls the family together and says, this is what we're going to do. And they do it with great enthusiasm, and they have the best float. And it's great. They have it every year. It's a family pride. They come from all over the region, including southern Ohio, to be part of this experience, and part of what they consider to be a hallmark of their family unity. So we're probably lucky for that. So thank you to the Goodwin family.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you all so much for being here tonight. In just a moment, we'll formally adopt the resolution. But again, congratulations to all of you, and thank you all so much for your participation in the parade, and of course for being here tonight as well. Move to receive and file that communication from the mayor. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 11.
Yep.
Item 11, Resolution 9013-18, a resolution to thank Mr. Chaz Geiger and Mr. Gordon Geiger for participating as the 2018 Grand Marshals in the City of Lakewood 4th of July Parade.
Move to adopt. Second. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt? I just echo the mayor's comments, and I think really, it's difficult for many of us to imagine downtown Lakewood without the Geiger store, and difficult to imagine the city of Lakewood without the Geiger family. So thank you guys so much for being here tonight, and also for your role in leading the parade this year, and everything else you do. Any additional discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes. I think we have, if you would like to, we could maybe come up and we can present the resolution and take a quick photo.
Please smile. And I'll take one more. Very good, thanks. Item 1, Committee of the Whole Report regarding meeting held July 9th, 2018.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole met last Monday, July 9th. We had 2 items on our agenda. The first was a discussion regarding Ordinance 33-18, which is a proposed lease between Iceland USA, Lakewood LLC, and the City of Lakewood for the continued operation of Winterhurst Serpentini Rink. We had a pretty lengthy discussion about both of the offers that the city received in that respect, their implications for the city, users of the rink, both inside and outside the city, and as well as potential maintenance liabilities, et cetera. We also discussed the compensation, and Councilwoman George had a couple of suggested changes that ultimately were renegotiated into the lease, and a substitute version is before us this evening. We also had a discussion of council's process for filling, in a permanent basis, the role of council clerk, as well as additional council staffing needs beyond that. Council determined that we will select from the applications that have been submitted, as well as our internal candidate, and conduct interviews 2 weeks from this evening, hopefully Monday, July 30th. Move to receive and file that verbal report.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 2, ordinance number 33-18, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a First Amendment to the amended and restated lease agreement with Iceland USA for the lease of the real property located at 14740 Lakewood Heights Boulevard, known as Serpentini Arena at Winterhurst, pursuant to Section 15508 of the Codified Ordinances.
Move to substitute.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to substitute? Again, this version reflects the changes that were requested by council at our Committee of the Whole meeting last week.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Rader?
Yes.
Move to suspend the rules to adopt on second reading.
Second.
All right. I'm sorry. Did we already had 2 readings? Okay. Then, in that case, move to adopt as substituted. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion to adopt. Hearing none?
Anderson?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Rader?
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Item 3, Finance Committee report regarding meeting held July 16th, 2018.
Thank you. Chairman O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met this evening. We had 3 items on our agenda. We first discussed Ordinance 44-17A, which would amend Ordinance 44-17 to include a small business grant program as a part of that ordinance. I'll let Director Sylvester talk in more detail about that on the next agenda item when we consider this for adoption, but it is a very worthwhile program. I think I speak for the rest of the committee in noting the potential that this has for businesses, a number of whom have already been helped and are expressing interest in participating in this program, which is being administered through the Small Business Administration. And the committee unanimously recommends that council adopt Ordinance 44-17A. We then moved on to a discussion of council's budget priority process. This is our 3rd year. This was something that was started when Councilman Bullock was chair. And we talked about timeline. This was just a reminder for council members, all council members, not just Finance Committee, of course, of the submission deadlines for budget priorities. Councilman Rader asked a good question about sort of the expectations and the process in terms of working with the administration. And we should be regularly communicating our priorities, even outside of this process as well, throughout the year, and even over the course of several years, depending on the size and the scope of these priorities. So We'll be working through the recess on these. Those are due at the end of the recess, and we have already scheduled 2 Finance Committee meetings for the month of September to discuss our budget priorities, and our hope is that we'll have these passed, or at least presented for adoption at the first meeting in October. Finally, I had asked Director Pei to provide an update on our revenues to date. We received a good report. And by the way, as I mentioned in our Finance Committee meeting, I would urge all council members to review thoroughly the Finance Committee, the Finance Department documents that are sent out every month with our month-end financials for the city. Particularly, the revenue analysis provides it illuminates where we are as a city in terms of our revenues, and we're in a very good spot right now, and all of our revenue sources are above where we were at this point last year and are well in line with our projections for the year. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 4, ordinance number 44-17A, an ordinance amending ordinance 4417 adopted December 18, 2017, authorizing the mayor, the director of public works, the director of law, the director of finance, and/or the purchasing manager to enter into service contracts in accordance with the administrative code of the city of Lakewood for the Department of Planning and Development in accordance with the administrative code. Contracts not to exceed the specified amount shown without separate resolution of council.
Move to adopt. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt?
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman O'Malley.
One thing I failed to note in my Finance Committee report, and it's an important point, is that this does not expand the dollar amount for this ordinance. It remains at $4.4 million. It simply includes this program as a part of our service contracts through this ordinance. So I'd also invite Director Sylvester to give a brief synopsis of the program, if it's all right with you.
Sure. Director Sylvester.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President and Councilman. So briefly, we got to thank the leadership at the Small Business Administration. Gil Goldberg started this about 4 years ago, advocacy to try to help small businesses in not just Lakewood, but really all of Cuyahoga County. So through his leadership and Mayor Summers' leadership and Executive Armin Budish, we were fortunate to be on the second round of cities that were able to create this program. So Cuyahoga County funded in $150,000, City of Lakewood funds in $50,000, and then small business owners and entrepreneurs are required to go through an SBA-backed loan process, which requires them to go through business plan consulting, come up with financing and budget worksheets for their businesses. That is not just at the time of the loan, but actually ongoing through their business, which allows them to have a resource while they're open. So we were fortunate to get support from council in the fall to start the program. We've been marketing it for about 4 months, and the interesting anecdote is the first couple of businesses that we've heard from are local business owners that are looking to expand, which we think is a great use of this program. And to be clear, it's not just for our local business owners. We hope that new entrepreneurs come via this program to our city. But it's a great fit for our local businesses that are looking to grow in our city. So thanks for the time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any additional discussion?
Sure.
Yes, Councilwoman George.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to say I'm in favor of this program. I think it's good to see a resource for small businesses to access, to invest more in the community. And I know, Director Sylvester, you mentioned during committee that it is a forgivable loan under a few conditions. Can you just outline what those conditions are again for us?
Yeah, good question. The loan is structured as typically a 3-year forgivable loan process, and the small business owner is required to create a minimum of 1 new job. So those are the 2 main requirements. As long as they stay open over that period of time, whatever the amount is that's funded from the city and the county's money is forgiven over that period.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Vice President Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Director Sylvester. Also, this sort of adds to the opportunities already available to some business owners in Lakewood, including the storefront renovation program. So this is, again, it's a supplemental to what is already existing by way of opportunity for some of our small business owners in Lakewood, correct?
That's correct, Councilman. And I would say the other thing is the storefront renovation program, which the source of funds is the federal government through the Community Development Block Grant funds, is limited to West 117th, Madison, and Detroit. We do have some commercial property throughout the city that does not have one of those addresses, and so this program can actually open up funding for some of those odd commercial parcels that don't land on those corridors. One that is really important is the Screw Factory. Screw Factory doesn't have that program available to them because they're not on one of those commercial corridors. So this could be interesting for small businesses that are looking at that industrial facility too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion from council? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting 4417A, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 5, Public Works Committee report regarding meeting held July 16, 2018.
Thank you. Councilman Rader.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we held a meeting this evening, and we were looking at two things primarily, although there were 4 things on our agenda, 2 items we had time to cover, and we had a pretty robust discussion about both, actually. I spent about a half an hour on both. And the first one was actually, we flipped them around. So the first one was a resolution on 901018. This resolution basically takes the Ohio Revised Codes standards on basically the legislature passed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Butler, the Ohio legislature passed a set of laws that we had to then kind of implement and make sure that we were giving cell phone companies and their contractors the right permissions to allow for cell phone towers in our right-of-ways. And this law allows us to do some, and it permits us, rather, to do some requirements and to make them go through more of a kind of stringent process when it comes to doing the permitting for that. It does not affect, and this is something I learned at the meeting, this does not affect the design and the you know, these towers and these structures still have to go through the planning and the ABR process, which we'll be working on as a council later on. We'll have much more discretion over that. This is mostly controlled by the Ohio legislature and what they kind of outlined for us. So it being sort of a boilerplate and having you know, gone to outside counsel for this, I felt very comfortable with that. There's a robust discussion on that. And Mr. Butler, if you'd like to add anything, this would be a great opportunity.
Director Butler.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilman, thanks for the summary. I don't have much to add. I'll only say that the ordinance before you, which is something I explained to the committee as well, it complements the existing comprehensive public right-of-way ordinance that the council passed last year, which is Chapter 904 of our codified ordinances. And it provides new application requirements, new fees, imposes new fees, and obligates the wireless telecommunications industry to provide additional protections to the city for using the public right-of-way for these small cell wireless facilities. So it's really I would say, a ministerial application-based set of guidelines, set of ordinances that are before you. And Councilman Rader was correct in saying that this does not impact the design. The design will be impacted by a comprehensive set of design guidelines that will be reviewed and my hope would be approved by Planning Commission, Architectural Board Review, certainly with City Council's input, and I would hope this fall. So, thanks.
Thank you. And I apologize. That was Ordinance 3418. Resolution 9010, and we did recommend that for adoption tonight as substituted. There were a few minor changes, but they weren't substantive that I could tell. So the other thing we talked about was 901018 is the resolution. This is the actual building, and it's the kind of the largest part of the project, basically, for the digester. And we went into a lot of discussion on that. We actually referred that back to council without a recommendation, and Director Benno
was kind enough to go and provide me with something that I had asked for on short notice, so thank you. And this is actually, I'll pass this out. In fact, this is the original budget, which I had trouble finding, and I really appreciate you going and digging that up, and showing us what that looked like. And we were over budget with the digester as it came down at about $8 million, a little over $8 million, the maximum price that's what it would cost us, whereas it was budgeted at $7,700,000. So to kind of pick up the discussion there briefly, I would like to ask maybe the finance director, what kind of impact would an additional $300,000 costed? Is that something that is generally accepted? Is there a lot of play? I know this project will go into 2019. Is that seen as something that is pretty routine or regular, or?
With this project so far, the city has borrowed $5 million towards the estimated $8 million for the project. So the city essentially borrows for this. It is paid out of an enterprise fund, and since it is related to the wastewater treatment plant, it is Fund 511, which is wastewater treatment, which is a portion of the sewer revenue. So it would just go into the calculations of our debt service, which is supported by our rates. So it would be impacted by rates eventually.
Very good. Thank you. And one of the things that kind of came into light in this project for me over the last week was that it is 100% essential, I think, and mainly for safety reasons too, that we separate, our electric and our methane so that we don't have some kind of catastrophe. I know that is an ancient facility down there. It needs a lot of upgrades, and this is something that has been coming for a long time. Another reason we kicked it over without recommendation was because we were right on the heels of the Finance Committee, when we took a little bit of Finance Committee, so I apologize for that. But I did want to have a little bit of public comments, and some people did come to speak on the issue. I know that John Hill could not stick around, but we were able to touch base afterwards. So I'll leave that there, and I will, motion to receive and file that communication.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file that report? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 6, ordinance number 3418, an ordinance enacting Chapter 906, use of public ways for small cell wireless facilities and wireless support structures of the codified ordinances in order to regulate small cell wireless facilities in the right-of-way.
Move to substitute.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to substitute? Hearing none.
Mr. President.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
The substitutions are mostly typographical, is that right?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Butler. Just two typographical errors. We omitted a word, and we needed to change one number by 1 day.
Thanks. Thank you. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Anderson?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Rader?
Yes?
That motion passes. Move to suspend the rules to adopt on second reading. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt? I'm sorry, the motion to suspend, rather. Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Anderson? Bullock? George?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Rader?
Yes.
Move to adopt as substituted. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Anderson? Bullock? George?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Rader?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Item 7, Resolution 901018, a resolution authorizing the amendment to the design-build agreement for the wastewater treatment plant digesters between the City of Lakewood and Kokosing Industrial in order to set a fixed price for the project.
Move to substitute. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to substitute? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or, I'm sorry, we have to do a roll call vote. False alarm.
Anderson? Bullock? George?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Rader?
Yes.
That motion passes. Move to adopt as substituted. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted? I know that, as reflected in the report, this was not recommended for adoption by the committee, but it was due to those issues that I believe have since been.
Yeah, and I'll speak briefly if I may.
Councilor
Yeah,
Perry.
and say that I do support this ordinance as it is, and we did have a special consultant that came out, and I really appreciate you taking the time Actually, I wrote your name down, and I lost it on my, no, wait, I have it here, hold on, I got it. Sean Aiken with CT Consultants, thank you so much for coming out and making the trip. I know you came from Columbus, and I appreciate you making it out. Or you were coming from Columbus, I think you're in Mentor, right? Is that correct? So, and you gave this a stamp of approval. As a consultant we hired to come look at this project and vet it, and he says that it is indeed within the, margin of error, within the, what we're trying to look out to do here. So I appreciate that, and with that, I would certainly support this.
Thank you. Any additional discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted?
President.
Yes, Vice President Anderson.
Yeah, I just wanted to show my appreciation to the administration for having some time to take to provide us with the original budget numbers, final budget numbers, and Director Benno's statements to the committee that contractor and design costs in regards to the budget haven't changed, and happy to continue this project, which was initiated a couple of years ago. So thank you.
Thank you. I would also echo what Vice President Anderson said, and given the scope of this project and the fact that it is design build, I really think that it's remarkable that the budget that we're looking at today is as close as it is to the original proposed budget, actually. So thanks and good work to the team that has been working on this for a long time. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Anderson. Yes. Bullock. George.
Yes.
Litton.
Yes.
O'Leary.
Yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Rader.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Item 8, communication from Councilmember Rader regarding source of income protection ordinance.
Thank you, Councilman Rader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today, I am recommending we add source of income, that's SOI, to our discrimination in housing ordinance as a protected classification. The goal here is to do what we can to remove what barriers we are able to help low-income people find decent, safe, and affordable housing. Individuals and families who receive public assistance have every right and to participate in our local rental markets. Including SOI protections and anti-discrimination laws has been shown to be helpful in decreasing discrimination, as well as making it easier for low-income people to find suitable housing. In what form a person or family may pay their rent should not determine what community will or will not accept them. Currently, 8 states, many cities and towns across the country have SOI protections that includes public assistance, which is what I'm recommending here. In Cuyahoga County, there are 4 already. That's Lindale, South Euclid, University Heights, and Warrensville Heights. So I look forward to a lot of discussion in committee on this. I'm sure there'll be a lot of input and questions, at which time I would hope that we could also have a discussion on what the city could do to help landlords understand these changes, so if they're so adopted. I have also reached out to organizations such as the Fair Housing Center, Cuyahoga County, and CMHA to understand how we might work closer to ensure the implementation is effective and efficient, with the aim of benefiting both tenants and landlords. So I humbly request that this would be forwarded and referred to the Housing Committee, and sincerely, Tristan Rader. I would move to receive and file that communication.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 9, ordinance number 3518, an ordinance repealing section 51601 and 51001, discrimination prohibited of the codified ordinances, and enacting a new section in its place to include source of income as a protected class, as well a definition for the term source of income.
Move to refer to housing. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to refer to Housing Committee? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 12, communication from Finance Director Pay regarding 2018 third quarter transfers and advances ordinance.
Thank you. Director Pay.
Thank you. Dear members of council, the 2018 third quarter transfer ordinance reflects 25% of the total anticipated transfers between funds that were included in the 2018 appropriations. Please refer to Finance for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I move to receive and file that report.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 13, ordinance 3718, an ordinance authorizing the transfer and advance of certain funds.
Move to refer to Finance.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to refer to Finance Committee? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 14, communication from Planning Director Sylvester regarding former Lakewood Hospital site rezoning plan development.
Thank you. Director Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. President. and members of council. Following this letter is an ordinance to rezone 16 parcels from C2 commercial retail and 1 parcel from R1H single-family high density between Bell Avenue and Marlowe Avenue to a planned development for the purpose of constructing a mixed-use development that will include public space, office, retail, and residential uses. Carnegie Management and Development Corporation is leading the mixed-use development proposal called One Lakewood Place, which is planned to be a vibrant mixed-use project complementing and adding to the thriving downtown district. Rezoning the property to a PD allows council, the administration, our planning commission, and other partners to author zoning specific to this property. The goal of the PD is to allow for flexibility to respond to the market while building requirements that protect and enhance the adjacent neighborhood. Planned development rezoning is a multi-step process with council's approval as the final action. Involved in this is Planning Commission, ABR for preliminary review and approval, as well as final review and approval by both bodies. In addition to the formal process with council and boards and commissions, the city will be organizing community meetings to discuss this project directly with citizens, business owners, and community organizations. The input and feedback at these meetings will be incorporated into the PD process. We hope you'll be able to join us at the upcoming public meetings, which are planned to begin this summer and early fall. Please refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission and the Architectural Board of Review, in addition to Committee of the Whole, for review and recommendation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication. Second. A motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion to receive and file. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 15, ordinance 3618, an ordinance to amend section 110502 of the zoning code of the codified ordinances by changing and revising the zoning map of the city with respect to certain property as set forth and described as 14519 Detroit Avenue, 14501 Detroit Avenue, and 1415 Marlowe Avenue from C2, from R1H to PD.
Thank you. Move to refer to Planning Commission, ABR, and Committee of the Whole.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to refer to those 3 entities, bodies? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 16, communication from Police Chief Malley regarding DARE program funding.
Thank you. Chief Malley.
Mr. President, members of council, DARE is a nationally recognized drug prevention education program which has been an important city and school-sponsored initiative of Lakewood since 1990. The DARE program helps students avoid drugs and alcohol, increases their self-confidence, teaches them how to effectively deal with peer pressure. The Ohio Attorney General has notified the Lakewood Police Department of an award of $44,018.75 to be used for salaries of officers instructing the DARE curriculum. The attached resolution supports the Division of Police grant application and acceptance of state funding assistance for the DARE program.
Move to receive and file that communication. Second. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 17, Resolution 9012-18, a resolution authorizing the mayor as the Director of Public Safety or his designee to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Attorney General to accept and expend funds for the city's drug abuse resistance education program in the amount of $44,019 to continue to educate young people in the city of Lakewood as to the hazards of alcohol and drugs.
Move to adopt.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none. Mayor, did you have?
Comment on timing.
Sure.
It can wait, but we'd prefer to get it out of the way. So September is our ultimate deadline here.
Sounds good. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adoption say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes. And that brings us to the end of our docket this evening. That was a fast one. We do have a couple of folks signed in for public comment, so we'll start with Scott Coons. Mr. Coons. And if you would, please just your name and address for the record.
My name is Scott Coons. I live at 1519 Marlowe Avenue. My concern today that I want to present to council is with the traffic flow specifically between Bunce and Bell and the uptick in accidents that we've been having basically on my intersection. I live on the corner of Marlowe and Franklin, And in the last 2 months, we've had 3 pretty severe accidents, 2 including EMS response and transport, including 1 fatality, as I'm sure you all know, from a very well-respected business person and citizen of the city of Lakewood. So we, as citizens of Marlow and in the area, we see cars going by really fast. We know the speed limit's 35. I would move the council to do some more research and see what resources we can pull to get a good grasp of our people, to correct the problems so we don't, lose more lives in Lakewood. That the high school's on there, my kids play there, citizens are walking down there every single day. A tire from the accident came flying off, went over my hedges, hit my air conditioning unit. I don't care about that. What I care about is that my kids play there. We got lucky, nothing happened to my kids or any students. The high school's there, hundreds of kids walk by every day. So I know we can't go back in time and fix that, and the accident was just there's a lot of accidents are. It's a fluke, but I think that it can be resolved. The frequency of these accidents can be reduced. If, ideally, I'd love to see Franklin get down to a 25 zone, but I don't have raw data to support that. I've been working with Councilman Litton. He said that he's been in touch with the ward officer about doing a little bit of data collection. I've talked to the mayor a little bit before the meeting today about some avenues that we can do on his part as well. So I'm looking forward to getting the data that we need so we can kind of, keep our community safe. Okay? Any questions?
Thank you for coming out tonight and being here, and thank you for speaking to those issues. I know it's top of mind for many of us. Councilman Litton?
Thank you. Mr. Coons, I just wanted to thank you for coming out tonight. I apologize we haven't had the chance to actually speak to this issue, but I can assure you it doesn't fall on deaf ears. In addition to the 3 incidents you've mentioned, I know Wyandotte and Waterbury in just the last few weeks and days have had some incidents as well, and just everything along Franklin is something we need to look at. I had the opportunity last night actually to speak with the deceased's mother, and it just hammers home the importance of us really looking at this issue, but looking at it through some real data, as you mentioned. Again, I appreciate you coming out, and your call does not fall on deaf ears.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Chair. Yes, Councilman Bullock.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something we should be always spending time on, not just after an accident. I'm happy to say on the record right now, I think we should change the speed limit to 25. We did that to, in a number of, I think Detroit, we did it in Warren Road, I think Lakewood Heights Boulevard a number of years back. As I recall, I think I shared in an email that the city has authority over certain categories of road to do that in our local ordinances, and when we don't, the default speed limit is 35 miles per hour under state code. To me, the only road in Lakewood where speeds arguably could be a little higher would be Clifton. This is not Clifton. And in fact, we have pretty narrow bike lanes that we want to see be successful and safe. And you can't have bike lanes successful without safety on Franklin, on top of all the other reasons that you mentioned. So to me, there's no need to wait. Let's just do it. I'd be happy to team up with the Ward 3 councilman if you want to introduce legislation the next time around.
I encourage you to do that as soon as possible.
Thanks. Thank you. I believe we have our next public comment signed up is Karen Wagner.
And I'm a variation on the theme. I'm Karen Wagner. I'm at 1514 Marlow. I'm the second house north of Franklin Avenue, and I've lived there for over 20 years. I work in operations, and I love data. I love data and numbers and systems. And on the Franklin Marlow issue, I think we have the data. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on it. Franklin Avenue, I mean, I've lived there for 20 years. I've shoveled, I've raked, I've mowed lawn, I've taken 2 kids back and forth to school. I'm still going to the high school for things for our neighbors. Franklin Avenue has young foot traffic. We have 4 schools on Franklin. Detroit and Madison are 25 miles an hour. We do not have 4 schools on that. We don't have busing. Usually, this accident with the death, with Nora's death, our neighbor's death on Bell, it happened like 5:30, 5:45. On a normal day, the high school kids are coming home from football practice, from cross country, from Model UN. I mean, that's a thoroughfare until 7 o'clock at night. On Friday nights, everyone's going to the football games when they're home. Franklin is well-trafficked, and I would like to see Franklin at 25 from 117th all the way to the I-90 overpass. It just doesn't make sense that we have to barrel through. And I'm just asking you to have a common sense solution that supports the common good for all of Lakewood's citizens. Questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That brings us to the end of our public comment signed up for this evening. Thank you again for attending the meeting and for sharing your thoughts with us. We will now open the floor to the mayor and the administration for any announcements.
Well, we wish you well on your August break, well earned. In the meantime, we will continue to work on our budgets. That process began today by Director Pay's charge to the directors. We'll also continue to refine our administrative view of the strategic objectives for the city, which when you return in September, we'll share and begin to discuss. And we also will continue to benefit from the work of our Resiliency Task Force, who is considering some of the longer-term implications, which go beyond 2019, well beyond. And I'm hoping that we'll begin to understand some of their thinking as we consider strategy and investments in 2019 and beyond. So enjoy your break, well earned.
Thank you. Any announcements from council?
President?
Yes, Councilman O'Malley.
Just quickly, I know we acknowledged the participants in the parade earlier today, and I just wanted to acknowledge members of the administration who worked hard to make the 4th of July a safe and fun event for the city. Melissa Garrett and Community Relations, our police and fire department, mayor's office. It was a great day. We had some heightened awareness because of some events around town, but it was went off without a hitch, and it was a great day in Lakewood. So thank you to them.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Law Director Butler.
I don't mean to be out of turn, but to follow on Councilman O'Malley's heels, Councilman Anderson was our MC with his wife at the parade and deserves lots of compliments as well, which he got from the residents I've heard from since that day.
Had fun.
So thanks.
It was like a date night during the middle of the day. It was perfect.
Thank you. Any additional announcements from council? Hearing none, I will move to adjourn. As was mentioned, council will stand in recess for the month of August, and we will be back the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.